The Orphan, the triumph of Huda, a story from the ancient kingdoms. The shadows inside her uncle's stone house did not merely fall, they pressed upon Huda like chains forged from sorrow. More than 1,000 years ago, in an ancient desert kingdom of towering walls, crowded bazaars, and flickering oil lamps, there lived a young orphan named Huda. At only 12 years of age, she had already tasted more suffering than many would know in a lifetime. Since the day her parents died during a bitter winter fever, Huda had been forced to live beneath her uncle's roof. But that home was no sanctuary. It was a place of endless labor, cruel commands, and silent tears. Before the first call of dawn echoed across the city, her aunt's sharp voice would rise through the courtyard. "Huda, fetch water from the well. Huda, grind the wheat. Sweep the dust from the floors." From sunrise until the stars filled the heavens, Huda worked without rest. Her small hands carried heavy clay jars. Her feet crossed burning streets, carrying sacks of grain. Smoke from the cooking fires stung her eyes until they turned red with exhaustion. At night, she curled beside the cold kitchen wall beneath a thin blanket, trembling quietly so no one would hear her cry. One afternoon, a man named Bashir entered the house. He did not come carrying gifts or sweet perfumes. He came seeking a servant. His sisters had married and left their mother's household, and now he desired a young girl to take their place, someone to cook, clean, obey, and suffer in silence. When Huda was summoned before the family, her uncle's voice thundered like a storm. "You will marry Bashir," he declared. Huda's lips trembled. "Please, uncle," she whispered softly, "I am only a child. I do not wish to marry." Silence filled the room. Then came fury. Her uncle rose to his feet, his face burning red with rage. "What did you say?" he roared. "You dare refuse me? Do you forget you are an orphan? I took you from an empty house of death. I fed you when you were nothing but a burden. You will go where I command." Behind him, Huda's cousins hid cruel smiles behind their veils, amused by her suffering as though it were a play performed for their entertainment. The marriage became her second prison. There were no musicians, no celebration, no feast beneath lanterns, only a quiet ceremony beneath dim oil lamps. For many years, Bashir and his widowed mother treated Huda like a beast made for labor. Before dawn, she kneaded bread dough. She hauled water from distant wells. She scrubbed clay pots until her fingers bled. In the evenings, she cooked over open fire while smoke darkened the ceiling above her. Yet the cruelest wounds did not come from labor. They came from words. "You are worthless," Bashir would tell her. "No one else would have taken you in. You should thank me every day you breathe beneath this roof." Little by little, Huda's spirit faded. The bright child she once was disappeared beneath years of suffering. Then, when hardship stole the youth from her face, Bashir grew tired of her. One scorching afternoon, he cast her into the street. "I will marry a younger woman," he sneered. "Go back to the dust from which you came." Broken and alone, Huda returned to the abandoned home of her parents. The house stood silent beneath years of neglect. Dust covered the floor. Wind whispered through cracks in the walls. Huda collapsed to her knees, weeping bitterly, but as her hand struck the earth in despair, she felt something hard beneath the dirt. Wood. Her breath caught. Quickly she dug through the soil with trembling hands until she uncovered an ancient chest wrapped in iron chains. Inside lay bars of pure gold, glowing beneath the dim sunlight like fire itself. Each bar was worth a fortune greater than most men would earn in a lifetime. In a single moment, the orphan girl became wealthier than many nobles in the kingdom. But Huda did not rush through the streets boasting of her fortune. She moved carefully and in silence. Disguised beneath a simple cloak, she entered the great bazaar and approached an old gold merchant. The merchant examined the shining metal with wide eyes. "By the heavens," he whispered, "this gold is worth thousands of royal coins." "Will you buy it?" Huda asked calmly. The old merchant nodded immediately. With her new wealth hidden safely away, Huda journeyed to the wealthy quarter of the capital, where towering mansions overlooked gardens filled with fountains and palm trees. There she stood before the grandest estate in the city. "I wish to purchase this palace," she said firmly. The noble owner looked upon her dusty robes and burst into cruel laughter. "You?" he mocked. "Very well, little beggar. If you can pay 100 gold coins before the sun sets, the palace is yours. But if not, I shall have the guards throw you into the river for wasting my time." The nobleman laughed loudly, but Huda simply raised her hand. From the crowded street behind her came 4 servants carrying a heavy wooden chest. They opened it before the nobleman. Golden coins spilled across the stone ground like sunlight. The laughter vanished from the man's face. His mockery had become a binding agreement. The palace now belonged to Huda. Yet unlike those who once ruled over her with cruelty, Huda treated her servants with mercy and dignity. No servant beneath her roof slept hungry or suffered abuse, for she remembered exactly what suffering felt like. As the years passed, Huda realized even mountains of gold could disappear if wasted foolishly. So she entered the world of trade. She purchased caravans of silk, spices, incense, and precious stones. Her ships crossed distant seas, while her merchants traveled dangerous desert roads. Soon, her name became known in every market, from the eastern ports to the western kingdoms. Yet she continued dressing simply, hiding her greatness behind humble clothing while she watched the world carefully. Eventually, tales of the mysterious merchant woman reached the royal palace itself. The kingdom's prince, wise, noble, and honorable, became curious about the woman who had risen from nothing through intelligence and strength. Though he had reached 30 years of age, he refused to marry merely for beauty or power. One day, he told his parents, "I will marry a woman whose soul is true." And when he finally met Huda, he saw not only beauty, but a spirit forged by fire. He loved her long before the royal wedding ever took place. On the day of the royal procession, Huda rode through the capital in a magnificent carriage carved from ivory and decorated with gold. Crowds gathered along the streets to witness the prince's future bride. Among those crowds stood her uncle, her cousins, and Bashir. The moment they recognized her, shock drained the color from their faces. There sat Huda, clothed in royal silk, shining brighter than the palace jewels themselves. Her uncle looked older now, consumed by years of greed and regret. Her cousins still carried their pride, though poverty clung to their worn garments. And Bashir stood beside his second wife, whose angry shouting echoed through the street for all to hear. They stared up at the orphan they once despised, and finally, too late, they understood the truth. The girl they had tried to bury beneath cruelty and shame had been a seed, and now she had become a forest. And now, dear listeners, do you understand that those who try hardest to break you are often the ones most afraid of your future greatness? Do you understand that orphan is merely a word, never a destiny? And do you understand that true wealth is not only the gold hidden beneath the earth, but the courage to rise when the world leaves you with nothing? Remember Huda's journey well, for the hardships you suffer today may become the very soil where tomorrow's greatness grows.